Hey Techies, Anthony here with Advanced Vector. Today bringing you a review of the M17 R3. I was able to get my hands on this and I am definitely excited to show you guys the differences between this and the M15 R3 that I reviewed earlier this year. From a build perspective, the M17 R3 is basically the same as the M15 R3. We have that magnesium alloy outer shell that protects all the pricey components inside quite well. It's very sturdy and there's very little flex. Additionally, our I/O basically remained the same, although the 17-inch does feature the 9-key pad off to the right, which is awesome if you are constantly typing in numbers and that kind of thing. I know that I definitely appreciate that on a laptop. Across the right side of the machine, we have a micro SD card reader as well as two USB 3.1 ports, and of course we have a fan vent. Along this left side, we start off with a dual-purpose headphone microphone jack, moving into a USB 3.1 port, and finally finishing it off with our Ethernet port, which is actually a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet port. Finishing it off with the back, we have the HDMI as well as a DisplayPort and Thunderbolt 3 port. This is also where you'll find the proprietary Alienware eGPU connector that would go to the Alienware graphics amplifier. The back of the lid does feature the RGB Alienware logo, as well as a nice cool scripted 17 symbol to indicate that this is their M17 model. And I think this looks pretty sleek and something that wouldn't be unwelcome in a business type setting. Typing on the keyboard was nice and comfortable. The keystroke is a little bit short, but overall something that I got used to very quickly, and it is very, very similar to the experience that you'll find on the M15 R3 as well. The surface of the keyboard is still fairly rigid, though probably not quite as rigid as the M15 R3. If I put quite a bit of pressure on it, I can start to see the housing flex around the keys. All in all, this isn't something that concerns me, as the laptop certainly has that premium feel and is very sturdy. The CPU in our 17-inch is an Intel Core i7-10750H. That is the hex core variant of this, with speeds boostable up to 5.0 gigahertz. Complementing our CPU is 16 gigabytes of DDR4 Ram running in at about 2700 megahertz. The graphics card in this model was the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2060. That was the non-super variant, which had 6 gigabytes of DDR6 RAM. For the screen, we got the high refresh 144 Hz 1920 by 1080 option that came with G-Sync enabled. Bringing it all together was the 1 terabyte option shipped by Dell, and they included a Micron 2300 NVMe drive. Now, I did not go quite as in-depth as my previous review of this laptop, or I should say the 15-inch version of this laptop. This specific machine was actually a client machine that I ordered in for them, and they were kind enough to let me use it for the review. For each of the following tests, I ran 3 runs and picked the best one out of the 3 to present to you here today. In 3D Mark, we ran Firestrike as well as Time Spy, and then just to kind of get a benchmark on that disk, we ran Crystal Disk Mark with a 1 gig sample file and an 8 gig sample file. In Firestrike, our score was a respectable 16,270, which definitely puts us above the average of the curve for this particular configuration. Our temperatures also remained respectable, with our CPU peaking at about 86 degrees Celsius, while our GPU maintained a nice cool 64 degrees Celsius. In Time Spy, we see a similar story, coming in just ahead of the curve again at 7,054 for our overall score. While the temperatures did increase slightly at 89 degrees Celsius for our processor, and our GPU came up a few degrees to settle in at 66 degrees Celsius. Overall, though, I am definitely satisfied with the performance of this machine. I feel like it's adequate. I feel like stock out of the box, it's ready to play, but I also feel like there is plenty of performance to be gained if you did decide to get in and tweak and overclock it just a bit. The hard drive in this machine definitely performed as expected from a current generation NVMe drive. Did not see much difference between the 1 gig and 8 gig sample, though I will show both of those to you here side by side. With tech currently out there, I think this is a reasonable configuration in hard drives for this machine now. With the PCI Express Gen 4 now kind of coming into purview, I would definitely expect future Alienware laptops to feature faster drives where we can start seeing things in the 5,000 megabyte plus range. We'll finish the video off with just a quick inspection of the back. Here we can see I've pulled the screws off and that back panel slipped off very similarly to the M15. We can see that it has the same number of SSD ports across the back. There are 2 for the full-size 2280 as well as a smaller 2230. Not surprisingly, the RAM again is not upgradable in this, so you need to make sure to get the RAM that you need up front, as it is soldered onto the board and is not a part that they consider upgradable anymore. And I think that pretty much wraps it up for this one, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review, and be on the lookout for more to come.